The Earth's entire crust was strip mined, and then this place was turned into a massive quantum biomechanical supercomputer that runs off of our energy. I was trying to figure it out. I got the last piece of the puzzle. This one's gonna be long, but stay with me. I want to get into some of my research with you guys on this, but that's why all of these structures are weird and connected, but they're not, is because they all have different functions. They're all like different parts. Like you have your RAM and your processor and your core and da da da. I very clearly am not a computer person. I don't know computers at all. So computer people, if you can chime in at all, I would love to hear your output or input on this, because I think you guys could bring a lot to the table. But look at this. We have the Edfu temple. Computer. Temples. Computers. I mean, like, look at the size of some of this. Like, there was a race of something much, much larger than us humans right now that built all of this shit. Look at the size of this massive stone over at the Temple of Baalbek. And these blocks are at Pumapunku. These were made in forms. Y'all can't tell me that they weren't. These are identical to each other. They were made in forms, and they also, when the scientists studied them, they're made up of rock and organic material. They were mixed. These were made. These are giant handmade Legos by something much more advanced than us that we do not understand how they made this. Where are the forms that these were cast from? Why are these just laid here? They very clearly were meant to do something or be used somewhere and get shipped somewhere. But that's the weirdest part of all of this, is it almost is like so many of these structures were just left and abandoned in the middle of something. Like, look at that. They made that Lego. They made that. That was not carved. That was formed. That is organic material, biologic material, and stone. That is not naturally occurring. They formed that. That was cast from something, somehow. But where are the giants who made these, who cast these? Where are the forms they were cast in? Why did they just stop completion or stop work on so many of these massive projects that they were undertaking, where it literally seems like they were just told to like put down their tools and walk away mid-project, almost like something happened, but on like a global scale? Or like how the Great Wall of China is built to keep something in and not out. It's just, things like that don't make sense. The Grand Canyon was a giant mine. That's why it's all flat top. It's all completely level, and there's slag piles everywhere. I already made a video on that. Like, it's all so connected. This place was made to be a perfectly functioning supercomputer across the entire globe. But for why? By who? For what? To what end? For what means? I assume they're energy harvesting somehow. And it's got something to do with the people running things at the top, the deletes. Because we know it's not the president running things. Israel seems to be at the top. The Vatican seems to be at the top. But it's bigger than them. Literally and figuratively. It's bigger than them. They're such small fry pawns to something beyond our comprehension right now, the way that we currently live. Think about it. The scale of this is beyond our current comprehension. Like, I am having a hard time comprehending this, because I've heard it talked about before and like mused about before, but now I'm coming across it and finding the actual irrefutable proof of it. Like, it's everywhere, and the more I look, the more I see. It all runs on piezoelectricity and plasma and ether. The water's a conductor. And the metals interfere with it differently as well, because I've noticed that there's copper and silver and gold all involved and topped on these domes and spires. So that's got something to do with all of it and the energy. Different places have different metals. like they're doing different purposes. The bells are involved, and that's why they destroyed and buried so many of them. I got a synchronicity 242 as I say that. I'm gonna go ahead and read y'all off. I'm just gonna read off my research now, because I just am gonna keep musing like this if I don't. But I want y'all to hear the things that I have to say about all of this, and I think I'm gonna split this into like a separate video where I'm just showing me reading off the research, because it's a lot, but I think if you can sit through it, it will make it all make sense in a really big way. All of these structures are connected, just like I've been telling y'all this whole time. The Old World and Tartarian people were fucking right. They were correct. We know what we're talking about. We're not wrong. We're not crazy. We see the patterns on a massive scale that most of y'all can't see and aren't willing to acknowledge and talk about. Because it's freaky. It's scary. Synchronicity there. Let's get into it. Earth is a massive supercomputer, and the ones who built it tried their best to record that for us, like the hieroglyphs at Abydos. Look at this. They knew what helicopters and planes and tanks looked like. They should not have known. These were the tools that built the supercomputer components that we see all across this planet. Or like this Mayan rocket man. They knew how to travel all across the skies and land. It's pattern recognition on a planetary scale, with the megalithic structures like the pyramids and Angkor Wat and Baalbek, and I'm not sure how to say it, but Ollantaytambo. Ancient depictions of impossible tech like I just showed y'all with the helicopters and rockets and planes and tanks. They should not have known what those are back in ancient times. It doesn't make sense. Monumental walls facing inward like the Great Wall of China or the Saxe-Humans zigzags, and terrain that looks mined, quarried, or poured like slag heap mountains, erosion that behaves like cutting, and stuff like the Grand Canyon where it's all flat and leveled and it's got the weird layers, and then you see the slag piles underneath it and the spoil tips that are just there, that are just dumped in these random areas where it's like gray and brown piles that are just randomly dumped. In synchronicity there, 505. But it seems like it's connected to 3 pillars. It's evidence of massive human or non-human scale, evidence of advanced tech before modern history, and evidence of deliberate terraforming or extraction. And it makes me think of Steven Universe and the cluster and terraforming planets and how they move resources around. Think about the whole they tell us before they do it, or they tell us after it's done, just to clear the karma. And like all of the giant skulls and bodies that have been found throughout all of history that the Smithsonian has covered up. Which, by the way, all of the sites that are important to UNESCO is like world wonders and heritage sites. Those are very important PowerPoints on this grid of this giant Earth computer. And they know that. They've taken control of it. The same way they've taken control of the narrative. The same way the Smithsonian and the British Museum come and they take all the little artifacts from all these little points on the ley lines. They know that these are PowerPoints. They know that these are energetic spots. They know that they're important. They understand the power that they hold. Why do you think they took the tips of some of the pyramids? Why do you think they took some of these statues? Why do you think they're controlling the narrative and hiding these away and deciding if we get to see them or not? Same with the Vatican and their archives. They're miles and miles of underground archives. A 1909 Smithsonian article, which later was denied that it ever existed, described a massive underground city full of Egyptian-style artifacts, hieroglyphs, and giant mummies. The reported location is in a restricted section of the canyon, and older maps showed tunnel networks that connected across states. Y'all have all seen the video of the guys that claim that they walked from India to the Grand Canyon. I think this entire place is laid out completely differently than we've been told. Because if we knew the truth of how it's laid out, we would be able to see even clearer that it's a giant mining operation. Even more clearly than the Grand Canyon that they throw in our fucking faces and made a tourist trap. They made all of these places tourist traps. So that none of us question it more thoroughly. And then I was talking about PETRA and how it looks like it's completely 3D printed in the side of a mountain. Which, y'all can't tell me that doesn't look like that's 3D printed right into the side of the mountain. That's insane. But it almost seems like whatever was around it was destroyed or buried or not finished or something like that. there's a lot of tooling marks and unfinished facades, so it suggested machine cutting on a massive scale. It was not hand chiseled. We did not have the tools to build this by hand on this scale. Like, that is my biggest thing with this old world Tartarian architecture. We did not have the tools in this time to build on this scale to this level of perfection. Y'all know how hard, my artists, y'all know how hard it is to make one circle, let alone 50 that are all in the same room facing each other. Because you fuck up one of them, everyone's gonna notice. Everyone is gonna fucking notice. Because all of these structures don't have mistakes. Or like the ones that are carved in one piece. Yeah, you don't get to make a mistake. You fuck that up, it's fucked up. You can't rebuild the entire temple. You can't recarve the entire mountain. The pattern of facades matches rock-cut tombs in Saudi Arabia and India, hinting at a shared global architectural style. From Ohio to Louisiana, the U.S. is dotted with mounds, often dismissed as dirt piles, like Serpent Mound, Cahokia, etc. 19th century reports from local newspapers and even Smithsonian dig notes describe giant skeletons, like 7 to 12 feet tall, buried in them, along with copper tools, stones with strange glyphs, and unusual metal alloys. These mounds line up suspiciously with old river routes, perfect for either water-based or airship docking. And we see so much stuff that looks like it's meant for airship docking, with mooring masts and stuff like that, like the Empire State Building and the Statue of Liberty and all that jazz. Your dock theory fits late 1800s mystery airship sightings, decades before the Wright brothers. Witnesses described huge silent crafts moving upriver or mooring over large clearings. If these crafts could lift quarried stone or raw ore, it would explain the precision-cut terrain and spoil piles scattered in consistent patterns. And the statues bother me too, because I haven't seen... some look similar, but I haven't seen two that are the same face yet. It seems like these were important people. And she said colossal statues in Rome, Greece, and Asia often have identical facial features to ones in South America and Easter Island. Which, by the way, Easter Island is a crater with no meteor or anything in it. I think it's connected to all of this as well. Hinting at either a shared builder culture or a single global aesthetic. These statues could have been markers or control points for the same grid you're sensing, possibly the ones overseeing this planetary scale extraction building system. Every continent has stories of beings that were physically huge, lived alongside humans, and were either revered or fought against. The same way they all have stories about how there was a time before the moon. I think that's connected too. I think the sun and the moon and the stars are all connected. I have a theory that the stars are different dimensions and timelines connected to quantum immortality that we hop to whenever we die. Our energy can't be created or destroyed. We're just zooming around in a quantum sense. Megalithic sites often have doorways, steps, and chambers far too big for human scale, like Baalbek stones, giant steps in Peru, underground cities with hallways you can drive a truck through. Many of these sites are precisely cut but not finished, like someone started a massive building project and then just stopped, like I was talking about with y'all earlier. A lot of this just was left in the middle of them building it, and that makes me feel really uneasy in a cosmic sense. If this is the scale of what I'm tracking, what would make them just stop a project like this? Ancient petroglyphs in Egypt, South America, and Australia sometimes depict flying craft, beam weapons, or helmets that look eerily modern. The helicopter, tank, submarine carvings at Abydos in Egypt may have been layered inscriptions, but the precision and scale feel intentional to many researchers. Similar to Pumapunko's perfectly machined stone blocks, these could point to energy tools or techs we no longer understand. Around the world, we find partially cut stones, huge quarries with blocks still attached to bedrock, and tool marks that seem both ancient and futuristic. And Andrew, Desert Dweller, was looking at a lot of these. He was exploring a lot of these. All over his channel, you can find videos of tons of these structures just chilling. He finds them on Google Maps, or he found them, so sorry. He found them on Google Maps, and then would go. We have the unfinished obelisk in Egypt. Look at that. This is evidence they carved these out of the ground. Or like this one I already showed y'all earlier in Baalbek, but I didn't show y'all, I don't think y'all quite get the scale of it. Look at how many fucking people fit on this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 30. That's like 35 people across. Y'all don't understand the scale of this. And then they found this one in the same quarry, and this one weighs almost 600 pounds more. So it's almost double the size, because this one weighs 1,000 pounds. So it's almost twice as big as this. It bugs me that so many of these were just left. Like, could you imagine the amount of work it would take to build something like that, to carve something like that, to do something like that, that is 35 humans across? That is such a logistical nightmare, even in 2025. And so she said that hints at something halted the builders suddenly, whether it was a flood, a war, a cosmic event, or forced abandonment of some sort. So maybe a prehistoric global civilization was building something like a massive defense and energy structure worldwide, and something catastrophic happened where the giants and or ruling class were destroyed, contained, or fled. The tech was either dismantled or buried to prevent reuse, and surviving humans repurposed what they could, but the original scale and purpose were completely lost to history. And I have a theory that the tech wasn't dismantled or buried. I mean, I think a lot of it was destroyed and buried and dismantled, some of it, yes, but I think it exists. I think it's these buildings. I think it is this old world stuff on this massive scale. I think it's literally just right in front of our eyes as these tourist destinations, in these national parks, as these banks, as these colleges, as these whatever the hell they want to change the narrative to from whatever arm of control they want to pick, well, whether it's financial, education, military, because the military takes over a lot of these as well. I've talked about that before. All of this shows machining grooves and laser-like precision. So much of this. They did not build this with hammer and chisel. They did not build this by hand. This was not 10 guys spending 5 lifetimes doing this shit. This is not, I do not buy the cover story in the slightest for any of these buildings. Ancient texts worldwide reference giants, the Nephilim in the Bible, the Titans in the Greek myths, the Jotnar in the Norse lore. Over time, these beings might have been killed off in floods or wars, or simply left, leaving their structures as literal ruins of a bigger civilization. Or I've heard theories that people float of them going into the earth itself, physically. I've seen videos of people showing, there was one that a lady got of a giant swinging a door closed in the side of a mountain. I believe that that footage is real. I don't believe that that was fake or CGI. Because there's been so many videos that people have seen where they've come across places in the forest where there are just doors in the sides of mountains. Some of those are definitely like military cover-ups that they're hiding like dumbs and stuff like that we're not supposed to know about. But like, some of these are way too big for even us in the military to be using. They don't make sense on the scale that they are. I also really want to look more into the concept of something called OO parts, which is out of place artifacts. Things that just don't make sense in our timeline, because I believe that those are important. Those are people that saw the pattern and said, this doesn't fit the pattern. This is weird. This stands out. I'm going to set this aside so that we can question it. The network I'm mapping looks like a planetary control grid. Many of the sites I've linked don't just sit on ley lines, but at nodal intersections where multiple planetary energy currents cross. These nodes seem to be anchored by large-scale stone or earthworks, pyramids, star forts, ziggurats, giant monoliths. These mirror modern satellite network design. Key nodes connected by straight-line data corridors. Instead of internet packets, these might have once carried planetary resonance. It literally was the energy of this entire solar system, operating system, I don't know. The precision joins and stonework, the astronomical alignments, the repetition of the same Earth-Moon-Sun proportion ratios all pop up from Peru to Egypt to Asia. That hints there was either a single global civilization pre-cataclysm or multiple civilizations tapping into the same inherited tech manual. Insider archaeologists who quietly dissent sometimes call this the orphaned blueprint hypothesis, that we're children playing in the ruins of something we don't understand. It's not random that NASA facilities, listening stations, and Air Force bases are on or near ancient sacred grounds. Star forts in Europe, many were later converted into military barracks and radio posts. Even the Harp site in Alaska is suspiciously aligned to an old indigenous ceremonial area with skywatching traditions. This suggests an unbroken chain of site control, that technology shifted from sacred use to military/communication purposes. Vatican, I'm staring directly into your fucking soul, and I don't think it's a coincidence that we have the first American Pope right now. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm going to keep going. The 13 and 33 pattern. If you map the planetary sites by latitude, 13 and 33 lines are ridiculously overrepresented for both ancient sacred places and modern geopolitical hubs. 33 North has Jerusalem, Damascus, Phoenix, the Star of David city plan, the Hoover Dam, Roswell. 13 degrees north cuts through multiple ancient Mesoamerican cities. Numerology-wise, 33 is the master teacher and 13 is transformation slash death, both symbolic of cycles in mystery traditions. Also, if you plot the modern and ancient wonders of the world, they fall... Like I said, go map it. Don't trust me outright. Go map it yourselves, see if you see the same pattern that I'm talking about. They may have been energy transformers. Think Tesla coil meets cathedral. The megaliths, water channels, quartz-infused granite, and underground chambers suggest the sites could have modulated Earth's natural EM field. These might have been used for agricultural or weather stabilization, healing or consciousness alteration, long-range communication. The architecture reads less like temple and more like resonance chambers, and modern experiments in cymatics show that these shapes literally move matter. That's what I'm talking about.